Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one!
Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown, Jonathan Taylor.
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit it.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle with you for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Wednesday, April 12th. Dustin Schutte along for the ride as well. John, the producer, keeping us between the white lines. And, of course, you're here, which is the most important part. Appreciate you being along for the ride. Don't forget, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda. Go to andymorehonda.com. to get more to your door with andymorehonda.com. Also, Endeavor Hospitality and their wealth of Endeavor Hospitality restaurants in and around the Bloomington area. Great places like BB's Market, your butcher, your baker, no matter where you live, located on South Walnut. And welcome in, Dustin. How are you, sir?
Doing all right, Jim. How are you?
Cannot complain. Of course, the impending visit of Jalen DeRoche for Indiana basketball, men's basketball, has been postponed. He was expected to be here on Friday, but Mike Woodson had knee surgery, and I'm going to assume that was unplanned knee surgery because obviously it would just seem that way. So this weekend, Jalen is going to Penn State, where Mike Rhodes is now the head coach, who was just the head coach of ECU, where Jalen Rhodes is currently enrolled in school. Let's see. Also, his former teammate there, Ace Baldwin, the reigning A-10 player of the year, has already announced his intentions to transfer to Penn State. So a lot of familiarity there. I was wondering how Penn State was kind of getting that little run going, but it's a little bit of VCU East. But Jalen DeRoche wants to come to Indiana. Make no mistake about that. We'll get more into that later. There's some great connections that will going to come out. I've got a story I'm going to have to write to. It's unbelievable. There's a three-tier connection between two current IU athletes and a prospect, which is very cool. Let's see. Zane Dowdy, the 6'9" big man from Ben Davis, who led the Giants to a 33-0 state championship season, has reopened his recruitment after receiving his release from Valpo after Valpo's coach is gone. Although their current coach now is an assistant that came from Gonzaga. So unless Dowdy's got some what's the word I'm looking for? Some suitors already in the making. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. I'm wondering if you already have suitors. If not, why would you want to go through this process again with as much as when you have 1,200 players in the transfer portal? Why in the hell are you going to open your recruiting up when you were going to Valpo unless you have a suitor someplace? So we'll see. It'd be interesting.
I would think that would be the case. I mean, I would think in the today with recruiting and with the transfer portal, I would think that a lot of these players probably have suitors or have had some sort of conversation anyway, because of how, like, there's a ton. Do we have a number as to how many players have already entered the transfer portal?
Total? No, not yet. Well, we can pull that up though. Hey, I want to say hi to Ike from Belgrade, Serbia. But he's actually from Richmond, Indiana, over on the east side of the state, right dead center. But thanks a lot for checking in. Yeah, it's always amazing when I see the analytics for either YouTube or the podcast portion of the show that goes out. That's not on radio, of course. Where the people are that end up listening. Belgrade, Serbia, that's a new one. I need to get a map and start putting pins on different places because, daggone, our friend from Amman, Jordan, haven't seen him on for a minute, but yeah, glad to have you people from all over. What time is it in Belgrade?
Oh, this is going to be this is good.
That's
I'm gonna look this up. It is
how actually don't say the time. How many hours? I'm guessing they're 8 hours at minimum in front of us.
Let me see here. I'm trying to do math in my head, which is dangerous.
That would be
6 hours.
Only 6? That's just
6 hours ahead.
Germany. And okay, well, I don't have my globe out to see exactly where Serbia lines up in the.
When we're speaking about time zones, do you want to hear? Here's a funny story I have from when I traveled to Germany. Since you brought it up, when in college, there you go. In college, I went on a study abroad thing for like 2 or 3 weeks. We were in Germany, and we had to be at certain places at certain times, right? And so I set my phone alarm for wake-up calls to be at certain places at certain times. I did not change. This was when you had to manually change the time on your phone. Not change the time on my phone. And so do you know how many breakfasts and buses I missed? Because this was not just one incident. It happened 2 or 3 times before my stupid brain realized why I was missing breakfast in the bus.
Ike pointing out from over there in Belgrade that 20%. Yeah, I saw that number. That is a staggering number, people. 20% of all players, 1/5. So that's 2.5 per team.
And that's basically, that's one starter per team. I know it doesn't always translate that way, but you figure 1 out of every 5, that's a starter per team.
2.5. Well, yeah, if you're losing 2.5 players, granted, probably one of them is likely going to be a starter or damn close to it.
Right.
But it's just a lot of First of all, I don't know if half the kids think that they're better than they are. Yeah, there's just a myriad of reasons. Who knows?
I think they get bad information.
Truth stepping in, saying, "What up?" What's that, brother?
I said I think that they also get bad information sometimes,
or no information, and just jump into the fire.
Yep.
Philip pointing out Valpo's new coach, Roger Powell Jr., was a starter on the 05 Illini team. Wasn't that a Final Four team?
Yes.
I believe.
Now you got my years mixed up. It was around that time. I thought that the Illini Final Four team was earlier, actually.
It's hard to remember. Let's see. Michigan State's Malik Hall, Tyson Walker have announced they are returning to Michigan State next year for a 5th season with the Spartans, which anytime you got a 5-year guy, Hall averaged 9 points a game, over 4 rebounds. So there's experience and production. Walker, he was the Spartan scoring leader at almost 15 points a game, 2.5 rebounds, and 3 assists in all 34 games last season. So, and the Spartans have a great recruiting class coming in. Not sure what they'll end up doing if they hit the portal. I'm not chasing them right now, but that's Michigan State sitting in good shape for next year. So, we already have, we know Purdue is in good shape. Now we know Michigan State is going to be in good shape.
Yep.
I think Ohio State is going to be in good shape.
Yep.
I think Maryland is going to be in good shape. I think Indiana will end up in good shape. And that's 5 teams, and we don't know diddly really about the Big Ten. And that's just from a view quick, 5 teams that actually should be decent. Well, I mean, we know Purdue should be decent, and Michigan State. Well, Ohio State, I'm not sure of. They lost Bryce Sensabaugh, so I don't not sure where they're going to be around. But Maryland, for sure.
Maryland, yep. I think Wisconsin, Tyler Wall's coming back, so they were on the verge of an NCAA tournament. So I don't know that they're going to be great, but they'll be probably dangerous. But their style of basketball is, I mean, not fun to watch. And then you know who's trending really down though, in my opinion? How about Michigan?
Oh yeah, no idea where they're going. Quickly get this in, Larry. How about checking in from Vegas?
There you go.
Our man Pat Knight out in Las Vegas, as well as Dean Garrett. Go by and see our buddy Dean Garrett at New York. He's over in the High Rollers area, but you can stop in and say hi if you're out there. Anytime you're in Las Vegas, you should be going by New York, and seeing and stopping in and just saying hi to Dean Garrett. He's over in the High Rollers area. Just ask for him. Everybody there knows him. It was funny. We walked over to Caesars when Indiana was out there for the Arizona game, and we were just walking over there. He said, I haven't been over there forever, which is odd. It's across the street. And, but everybody, Dean, of course, Dean's 6'10", but the workers I'm talking about, these are hey man, how you been? It's like they hadn't seen him forever. I'm like going, you literally work across the stinking street, man. And it's like it's a 10-year class reunion. It was funny. So there's that. Speaking of Pat Knight, I know that he's got the site up for his dad, for his dad's name legacy, and Pat's going to be coming on with us at some point to talk about that. So if you see that is legit, and that's Pat's deal. I'm impressed to see we've got listeners today already from Las Vegas and Belgrade in Serbia. That's crazy, man. Of course, we've always got our great peeps that are River Rats listening on 97.7 ESPN, always the right call, the Ref in Evansville, and 12:30 a.m., 104.7 WJOB, the voice of the region, covering Hammond and Chicagoland, and soon to be on The Fan in Fort Wayne, 1380 FM up there, or AM. So that looking forward to that starting soon. We'll let you know when that happens, as well as we continue to increase the footprint of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, as Dustin continues to wear his Alabama baseball hats on here.
That's right. We need to like a bit, like, since it's Big Ten centric, we can coin like Bigfoot print. Combine the two, Bigfoot print.
Atlanta stole. I mean, that's a font, but does Atlanta's have like something off of the very top of the A?
Yes. So Alabama's has I call it a mullet. Alabama's has a mullet.
Yeah.
And Atlanta's does not.
Gotcha.
So that's the
Atlanta's
biggest. I think
I'm pretty certain that Alabama or Atlanta stole that from Alabama, since that was around a long, long time before. We've got to take a break. Man, I didn't even mention the lineup today. What a great one we have. Bob Kravitz, always from the Atlantic, joining us. Jeff Goodman, Field of 68 as well, of course, longtime sports writer. And Rick Bozich. What a lineup that is. And what a time to be talking about it, is the college basketball world swirling and swirling, baby. We got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Glad to have you with us. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the I forgot. I'm not showing my Never Lose Hoop shirt.
I wondered what it said.
What does that say at the bottom?
Assisting kids affected by cancer.
Kids affected by cancer. Is that Jordan Holes?
It's the Hulse family, but it's kind of transferred to Jordan. It started out as his dad and mom started it. JC, his dad had cancer. And,
okay, I didn't know that.
And now, I think after last year, I'm going to fire him though as the MC. He couldn't get through 2 seconds without breaking down, and I mean, would take a minute to get back. Or I'm like, oh man, JC's a big dude too, but it's because he's been through it. So, yeah, I said you're fired as MC. I said you can speak in short bursts. I said, as a matter of fact, I said you can speak in your normal way. I said I'll just speak in between your breaks, which are lengthy. Joke.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
What is this?
Oh, trust me. That was nothing. You have seen nothing until you've seen a couple of the battles that were on here between me and JTP.
Oh, I was on for one of them. Have you seen this video of two shirtless guys? This has to be in Russia.
You could stop right there. No, I have not.
Okay, well, one of them is boxing. He's punching the guy in the stomach, and there's a bear in the background, like shaking the tree, like a whole
cocaine bear,
grizzly bear. It might be cocaine bear.
Speaking of bears,
we're on the air, Kravitz, just to clarify. They're just being nonsense.
Well,
we're not on the air.
We're not. Oh,
we're not.
YouTube audience is witnessing this. That's it.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, mercy. Bob, I have on a roll. I should save this.
Yeah, it's fine. We got 20 seconds. I'll bring us back in.
Passion for beer, food, and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. It's a beautiful day outside, and speaking of Mr. Warmth, he's here. Bob Kravitz from The Athletic. How are you, sir?
What do you want?
Just keeping the peace, baby. Just keeping spreading the love.
How are you, gentle? How are you, fine, gentle, in this great morning?
Just
we're doing well.
Cannot complain. Nobody wants to listen to it.
I'm trying to figure out, Bob, and I know the listeners can't see this, but what is the pattern on your shirt? Is that a specific
cocktails?
It's what I thought it was, but I didn't want to assume.
Yes, cocktails. It seems perfectly appropriate when we're talking about golf and me.
I bet as soon as this concludes, are you heading out to the course on a day like this?
Tomorrow, I'm going out to the Colts today. They have an availability with a couple of players, including Shane Steichen. So I'm going to actually work today in my shirt.
Wow, it's good to have a shirt on because
well, God only knows that's my wife.
Well, in the break, Justin was trying to talk about two guys and with no shirt.
Okay.
I'm like going, stop. No, I have not seen it, and I don't want to see it.
Well, no, just a brief description here. This wasn't just
next thing I know,
two
we're talking
guys
about
shirtless.
Cocaine Bear and
There's an image of what I assume is from Russia with two guys shirtless in the snow wearing jeans, one guy punching another guy in the stomach, and there's a bear in the background, like a whole ass grizzly bear shaking the tree in the background. Nice. It is one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. It just popped up on Twitter.
From Rocky 1.
So it might be from Rocky 1, maybe a combination of Rocky and Cocaine Bear. We're not really sure.
Oh, maybe Cocaine Bear showed up for Rocky. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Trying to piece it all together here.
Very cool.
Well, you got to keep up to date, brother, because apparently yesterday we were awesome and very funny. So the pressure's on.
Okay. Well,
Bob doesn't care.
I really don't care. I'm not trying to live up to anybody's standards of humor.
If you don't have any standards, how can you live up to any, right?
Exactly.
My first question is: the Big Ten is apparently on the precipice of hiring a new commissioner. I saw that when the ACC was re-upping Jim Phillips, I'm like, well, there goes the Big Ten shot at a real commissioner, as all conferences seem to be going the way of TV executives to fill those roles to get the dollars, which is fine, but it asks the question, who's actually going to govern the league? Because like the Big Ten, Jim Delaney for 3 decades was the guy. He was the veteran of all the conference leaders and did the best job in the history of conference leaders. But then the Big Ten dove into a cesspool, and now I'm not saying that they're making a wrong move here, but they kind of went this direction with Kevin Warren, and it was an absolute bomb. Secondly, how do you pronounce this guy's name?
I have no idea.
Have you seen how it's spelled?
No, spell it for me. I'll tell you.
Tony, I'm going to say Petiti, but Petitti.
Petiti.
Okay.
That's what I would think.
Italian, yeah.
Yeah, is that okay with you?
Absolutely. I just did not want to. That was one I did not want to butcher.
See, the comedic timing on that one was perfect.
Yeah. So what issue did you have with Kevin Warren besides the fact that they were late to move on God, I gotta wake up. I haven't had my coffee. They were slow to move on COVID, and they kind of screwed over IU football in the Big Ten.
And you could have made that anybody. I don't want to be about Indiana. They would have screwed over his mother if she would have been in second place, I believe, in order to get Ohio State in there. That was just one thing.
Okay.
He just seems like he fumbles the ball. He did not come out and take positions at times where he should have. When he did, it was like, what? Putting the freaking conference basketball tournament in Minneapolis.
Yeah, the women, that made no sense.
Stupid. Well, the damn media days were up there last year. Next year, the conference tournament is up there just because he's from there. It was just wonky. His whole experience seemed to be wonky. He didn't expand the Big Ten with USC. USC reached out to the Big Ten.
Right. I will say this though: he walked into a crap show. I mean, when he walked in, the pandemic was just getting started. Correct. So I mean, they had some serious challenges from the word go. And then,
I took over a sports website at the onset of the pandemic.
And then NIL came along under his time, so that changed everything. I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just saying I don't know that he was that terrible. Certainly, if you're an Indiana football fan, I can understand the the issues you might have with him.
Dustin?
Well, I mean, my issue was it just always felt like he was petitioning for his next job, which, I mean, good, bad, or indifferent. We all kind of do that. But at the same time, I never thought he put the best interest of the conference ahead of him. But I wanted to, I was going to shift gears and ask Bob about his column regarding the Pacers and talking about how they were, what I think 10 or 11 wins above what they were projected to finish at the start of the season. They were incredibly fun for a majority of the season. Obviously, when Tyrese Halliburton was out, things went off the skids a little bit. But this was a team that, and I thought you had an interesting point in that it was much needed. Because from my standpoint, didn't matter how many wins they had. I don't think anybody expected them to make the playoffs or even come close.
Right.
But the fact that two things that stood out to me about this season, they were incredibly fun to watch all season long. And even when the Pacers were good at times, it was get the ball into Sabonis, and it was kind of a boring brand of basketball.
Right.
The other part of it, too, is even though they weren't in the playoffs or didn't make the play-in tournament, through about 75 games, they were playing meaningful basketball, trying to get into that play-in tournament. So they did get some valuable experience there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to me, it was, the perfect tank job, would be to get the first pick.
Right.
My favorite new website, before you, not to interrupt, Tank. Are you familiar with Tankathon.com?
Tankathon, dude. The last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I've been reading it, looking at it every day.
I think of Bob Kravitz every time I see that. I'm like, dude, how did you not come up with that website?
I know. I was thinking Tankapalooza, but that's just me. But no, they were a lot of fun, and really, they're 23-18 when Halliburton gets hurt, and that changed the entire trajectory of the season. Then he comes back, and then Miles is having some issues. So I thought they handled for a season that was sub 500 and nowhere near the playoffs, I thought it was a very productive season. They learned a lot about a lot of players. And, I think they're finding out that Nembhard can really play. I think they're finding out that Miles absolutely fits as the sole five when you get him involved in the offense the way Halliburton has. What I'm curious about now is they've got $25 million in cap space, which is the third most in the NBA. What kind of free agent can they bring in here? It's got to be a starter. It's got to be an amazing. It's got to be some. I would like to see them either draft or get a four-man. But will more guys want to come to Indiana to play with Tyrese Halliburton? And I think they're really counting on that.
Well, and to that point, I think. Tell me if I'm wrong on this. This team feels like. I'd have to go back and look at the exact year, maybe 2010-11 or 11-12, where they just kind of snuck into that 8th seed in the playoffs, got smoked by the Bulls in 5 games. But then they were able to, I think, trade the draft pick of Kawhi Leonard and got George Hill, an experienced guy that had been on a championship team. They were able to bring in David West, an experienced guy and a proven team leader. I mean, to me, it feels like they have the pieces in place. They have the talent. It's just a matter of getting a couple guys. And I thought Kevin Pritchard said, I don't know, remember if it was yesterday or the day before, we have 5 draft picks. I'm not interested in bringing 5 young kids to this team. So it tells me that they have the core of what they want. Now they're looking for the missing pieces to kind of get this team to that next level.
I think they're 2 big-time players away from they're 1 big-time player away from making the playoffs. 2, I would say, to be the type of team that you'd not want to play in the playoffs. What I liked about this year is they established. I hate the culture thing, but they did establish a culture. It was a likable team. They were first in fast break points. They were first in points off the bench. They were up there in assists. They played a really cool, free-flowing style of offensive basketball Now, defensively, and their defensive rebounding is pathetic. Last in the league in defensive rebound percentage. They only grabbed about less than 70% of missed shots on the defensive end. So that's something they're going to have to work on big time as they move forward.
Lots of other things going on. Of course, the college basketball. I think the portal has been good and bad, but in the NCAA has to stick hard and fast on these second transfer rules. That's where they get themselves in trouble, by not backing up something that they've said. Because if not, it is truly the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
But if they do that, I'm like, I'm not. That's fine. Be able to move once like that without sitting. But I like it. I think I like what it's done for college basketball, in the fact that it has seemed to be the great equalizer.
Now, coaches hate it because, it's harder for them to coach a player hard. I understand why coaches feel the way.
Never thought about that.
Coaches are looking out for themselves. They want to know who they're going to have for the next 2, 3, 4 years. And it's harder. I know in talking to coaches, it's harder for them to coach a kid hard because that kid may be the type of person who runs from conflict, runs from tough times. So I think it's bad in that way. But at the same time, we go to college to prepare ourselves for life after school. And, especially in football, you look at, Joe Burrow transferring, Will Levis transferring. A lot of these transfers have done fabulous things with a heightened opportunity. So, that's kind of where I am on it. There's some downside to it, but I think it's by and large been a plus for college basketball.
And now we've got the one thing I've learned from this season is to not guess. When we come back, I want to talk about teams like Duke, because they're kind of like Indiana in the fact that where Indiana had Branch McCracken before, they had success under him. Not a lot of success after that. But actually, you got to go. I forgot. What's up next for you?
Well, I'm going to go to the Colts today and come up with something. Lord only knows. It's a little bit of a slow time right now. I'm going to put together a piece at some point about the top moments in the 40 years the Colts have been here. People forget they've been in Indianapolis longer than they were in Baltimore. So I got a couple of things to do, and maybe I'll play some golf. Who knows?
I would suspect you would.
Exactly.
Enjoy it, my friend. Appreciate you. The
Good
great
seeing
Bob
you both.
Kravitz from The Athletic joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We've got lots more coming up, including Jeff Goodman right here, right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Good morning, Mr. Jeff. How are you, sir?
What's up, Jim? How are you?
Doing well. Appreciate you very much.
No problem. No problem.
How's Boston?
Finally getting back to reality, normal life. I got to finish expense reports today, and then I'll be good.
How's Boston? How's Boston?
The weather's finally been okay the last couple days. So it was 60 yesterday. I think tomorrow it's going to be in the 70s and then 80s. So I'm excited. We're going in. My wife and I are doing a night in Boston. It's about 45 minutes for us, so that way we don't have to worry about the dog.
I love Boston. I've only been there a couple times, but I got friends that live there, and it's been awesome.
It's great this time of year. Winter, it sucks.
Yeah, I can imagine, man. That would be too much for me. Do you know Dustin Schutte?
Hey, Dustin, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you, Jeff?
Very good. Very good. Thanks.
Oh, man.
What's new with you, sir? Just following the bouncing ball.
Transfer portal. That's all it is right now. That's everything.
Yeah, that knee surgery for Mike Woodson must have been unexpected because Jalen was coming. Deloach was coming as recently as yesterday. Still,
really? Yeah, I don't know then. Yeah, I guess maybe he did something. I don't know.
He's a big golfer.
Yeah. Oh, I know that. I know he golfs more than he coaches.
You got that right. He may have heard it lighting a cigar.
That too. Yes.
How's your daughter doing? How's she liking school here?
She's good. She's got about 3 weeks left, and her first year will be in the books. So she's so far so good. And I'm gonna, once she gets home, she's gonna work because she costs me a lot of money. So no more of this working 10 hours a week shit. You know, I told her I'm like 30 at a minimum, and you got to save. Man,
you got a built-in. I don't want to call her an intern, but
she's actually doing. Assistant. You know what I told her to do? I told her to do a women's transfer list. So she's been working on that the last week because there's nothing like that out there. So
real guys.
She's been working on it.
To avoid decision fatigue, you pick your plan and pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. It is April 12th, and we're very fortunate to be joined by Jeff Goodman from the Field of 68. How are you, sir?
I'm well. I've been back home for about a week now. What's today? Today, Wednesday? Yeah, I got back a week ago last night, and still haven't completely unpacked. Still haven't done my expense report. So the transfer portal, man, it just doesn't allow you to really rest a whole hell of a lot. So it's been crazy, as it has been for all the coaches, Indiana included. And then we'll have obviously kids putting their name in the draft, withdrawing from the draft. Then the draft, then July recruiting. So it's kind of a year-round sport for the most part. I think August is the 1 month that I kind of try to take off as much as I can. But other than that, with the portal the way it's been, it's kind of a year-round sport now.
And actually, right after, like as soon as the NCAA tournament ends and that portal just kicks into high gear, that might be the busiest 2 to 3 weeks of the college basketball season, because it is not, you can't stop looking at your phone or calling people or whatever for 18 hours a day in essence.
Well, and then you add in, for me, it's the month of March, because you add in all the coaching changes as well, the firings and hirings, the portal starting to get going with some high major guys, obviously with the tournament games. And in this day and age, it's not like it used to be. When I first broke in, it was like, okay, the portal was like 250 people. Twitter didn't exist. So you could actually sit down and watch a game and not have to worry about tweeting or other people tweeting every play, every big moment, whatever it was. I'm not going to lie. I missed some of that. Having my laptop kind of closed for the first half and then writing, which is what I did. Then, open my laptop in the second half and start to write a story that, whether I was working at Fox or CBS or whatever, would be published, shortly thereafter the game ends.
Yeah, I was talking just the other day, and I said, and I don't, and the difference between, say, Jeff and what we do, we're covering the Big Ten and Indiana mostly. Jeff's covering Indiana and the Big Ten and the Big East and the Big 12 and everybody else. So you've got a lot more branches that you've got to cover, which makes it even more difficult. How do you, because I don't have to do that, and I know how freaking busy I am. And so going in 80 different directions at once, I'm only going in about 40 different directions. So I can't imagine going in twice as much.
It's fun, and it's funny because obviously my daughter's been around me a lot more lately. I try to take her everywhere I can, for multiple reasons. One, because I love her, and I don't know how long it's going to last that she's actually going to want to be anywhere near me. Number one, and number two is to try to teach her and have her learn. If she wants to get in this industry, have her learn. And I'm not necessarily saying watching me, but watching people like Dana O'Neill, watching some of the other pros do this, Pat Forty, listen to them. She did a seminar in Indianapolis where both of them spoke, a writing seminar, and both of them, in addition to Brendan Quinn, who I think is as good of a writer as there is out there for The Athletic, they all spoke. So, she learned that. She worked. She volunteered there, helping out the sports information crew, passing out quotes and stats and all that. So I think what she saw from me was like, she knows now why my voice is gone when I come home from the Final Four, because you're talking nonstop. You're networking. If you're not writing or on one of our shows, you are talking nonstop to coaches, and it doesn't end at 5:00. My phone goes nonstop, and I think she's gained a better appreciation for that. The 24/7 nature of my job. The one difference for me now is when I go to bed, I turn my phone off. I never used to, but now I'm like, you know what? If something huge breaks while I'm sleeping, so be it. I'm not dealing with from midnight till 6:00 in the morning or whatever it is, being woken up like I have been in the past, because West Coast coaches don't understand that there is a time difference.
For the first time ever, within the last month, I have set on my phone the do not disturb that starts at like 11. Never, ever done that. But of course, there's numbers that you can allow to get through all that. So, and I've got about 10 of those just for backup. Dustin used to do pretty much the same thing with Saturday Down South and dealing with football. But you cover just mainly college basketball, right?
Yeah. Some NBA as well.
Well, but it's almost impossible to cross all of those when you're doing that much of that wide of a breadth. Yeah. To be a columnist, maybe, but you go beyond that actually, because it's the information. It's getting that information that changes, like with Jalen Deloche, who up until just yesterday was going to be on a visit to Indiana on Friday. Mike Woodson apparently having knee surgery, which I'm assuming had to come up out of nowhere, because that's being changed. He's now going to Penn State this weekend, where Mike Rhodes, his former coach, is, and his former teammate Ace Baldwin is committed already. But what have you seen so far from what Indiana's done in getting the two bigs in Peyton Sparks, but of course the bigger in Khalil Ware, which he's got some question marks, but a lot of upside.
So I've seen Khalil play multiple times, and like you said, upside is the word to use. I wish the rule was still in place for Khalil, where you'd have to sit a year, because I think it would help a kid like him more than almost anybody if he had to sit, gain some weight, learn the program, learn the system, all that. He just wasn't ready. I remember seeing him a summer and a half ago. I can't remember. It was somewhere near Atlanta in AAU ball. And I was like, all right, everybody's raving about this kid. I got to watch him. And in spurts, he was great. But again, kind of what he was this year at Oregon, right? Like in spurts, he was really good, but consistency, strength, toughness, those are all areas he needs to improve. And I give him credit, because he probably could have come out and still been a first-round pick. And instead, he and his people decided, you know what, let me go somewhere else. the good thing is, he was coached well this past year because Dana Altman is one of the best coaches in the country. He just didn't have any guards. He had no guards. I saw them in Portland at the PK 85 for 3 games. And they had one guard, Will Richardson. Everybody else was hurt. So that made it harder for Khalil also. I love his potential. I just wonder how long it's going to take. And if this kid is smart enough to understand, all right, it may take me more than 1 year at Indiana to be ready for the NBA.
Do you think, Jeff, to that point, and this is a branch off of the Indiana conversation, but I think that sometimes we tend to critique the transfer portal and NIL and how it's changed the game. We can argue for better or for worse. But do you think players now, there's less pressure for a guy like Khalil Ware or some other guy to make that leap to the NBA because they know that they can earn some money at the college level as opposed to trying to, even if they get a second-round contract, for a lot of these players can be life-changing money.
Yeah, I mean, the perfect example I'll give you is yesterday, Kyle Filipowski at Duke. I mean, he was going to be a first-rounder. And these days, you can probably count on one hand over the last 5 years how many projected first-rounders decided to come back to school. It just doesn't happen. You've got kids leaving, not just for second-round contracts now. You got them leaving for two-way deals. So I think that displayed how much it's changed because he's going to get paid NIL. Not as much as he would have had he gone to the NBA this year. Not as much, but he'll get paid pretty well. And I think his thought process is similar in a way, but different to Khalil. Obviously, Filipowski proved it, right? He was a productive player at the highest level last year. So he could have went, but I think his thought is, you know what? I'm going to go from being a fringe first-round pick to being a lottery pick next year. I'm going to get stronger. He was horrible last year in the preseason for Duke. Terrible. And then the light flipped, and he was their best player for most of the year last year. So I think, for Khalil, it's, all right, we're going to give you all this money. So there's less pressure to have to go to the NBA, right. Where, again, Khalil looks at the mock drafts a year ago, having him in the top 10. And now he looks at the mock drafts, and I don't know what they are. I haven't done one since the season ended, but they're probably him in the 20s, maybe. And he's saying to himself, well, you know what? Maybe I need to go back to school to try to get that thing back to where it was.
Today, with coaches having to decide, Jeff, in recruiting, with recruiting freshmen versus recruiting the portal and how much resources you're going to put in, because recruiting a freshman takes 5 times the time, 5 times the money, because you got trips in, trips out, trips there, this, that, and the other thing. And unless it's a 5-star, it's a project. So it's almost inadvantageous to do that in that regard.
And even the 5 stars, I mean, look, some got hurt, but Nick Smith at Arkansas, he was in and out of the lineup. Not as good as we thought. There weren't as many even top freshmen. Brandon Miller was one of the exceptions to the rule last year. Filipowski was, again, better than we thought he'd be. But a lot of these top freshmen aren't as good now because the gap has closed, right? Now you're an 18, 19-year-old freshman. Brandon Miller was older than most freshmen. He was almost a year older than most freshmen. But most of these guys are, 19 years old. Playing now against, DeAndre Williams at Memphis, who's 26 years old. For 2 more years, that gap is going to be more sizable than ever until the extra COVID year, which I'm not a fan of. I'm just done with it, guys. I'm done with it. For a year, I'm fine with those the kids that were seniors that year. I'm fine with them getting an extra year. That's all that the NCAA should have done. Most of these kids played 20 to 30 games that year, by the way. So I just feel like it's overkill now. I'm ready. Most coaches are done with it too. Want to be.
And something that people don't realize, the top 20 or 21 selections of this year's, and it depends on where you're looking, but of the an aggregate mock draft are going to be freshmen or the equivalent of that. And that is an absolutely mind-boggling thing. And then you just sprinkle in a couple of guys like Chris Murray, who's a junior, or whomever, and people wonder why. Well, why Trace? I saw someone say there's not 32 people better than Trace Jackson Davis. I'm like going, you want to bet? There's 32 people that you don't even know about.
Yeah. I mean, I hope we're wrong, and I hope Trace goes in the first round because he deserves it. And I still think Trace can be a heck of an NBA player if he can. I just wish he had developed his perimeter shot a little bit like that. Yeah. That's the only thing that I still
That's
wish.
a question, Jeff. I have to. How can that not happen with a guy that has that much talent, that was that successful from the start, who has a dad that played in the league? How, and then you're told that every year. How does that not happen?
Well, is that on him or is that on the coaching staff?
I got to put it on him. Because
I think it's probably
staff,
a combo. Yeah, I think it's probably a combination here where maybe in preseason he wasn't making them enough, so that the staff said, no, we're not comfortable with you. Or maybe he just realizes, I help my team more. I can score around the hoop anytime I want for the most part. I help my team more that way than being a 20% three-point shooter. So, I think it's probably a combo of the two, but to me, it's more of like you had a few years to develop your. And I'm not saying you need to go out there and shoot threes like Hunter Dickinson's doing, but make 18-footers because honestly, if you could, they might have still been playing past the second round of the NCAA tournament because they just didn't have enough guys that could space the floor.
Nope, at all. Talking about someone like Flory Badunga, I'm sure you've seen him play, but as
I've seen him. I've seen him.
He's I don't want to call him a generational player, but he's really, really, for someone who's been playing, what's he been playing for, 3 or 4 years now?
Yeah.
Just raw talent. And when as coaches continue to get a hold of that with more and more coaching, he's just going to improve.
He's a beast. I mean, when I saw him last summer, the first name that came to mind for me was Amari Stoudemire because of how hard and how ferocious he was. But the biggest difference, Amari could do one thing then. He could rebound, he could overpower you and dunk. This kid has skill. And again, only playing for 3 years, it's amazing like how skilled and how he sees the court. He can pass it. Like most of those kids who've only been playing a few years have no clue how to play. They're a black hole. You throw it into them, you never see the ball back. This kid is so mature beyond his years for which he's played the game. But again, the part that stands out more than anything is the motor, how hard he plays. I mean, he is a absolute monster down there with kind of his relentlessness and his athleticism, physical play, all of that, again, compares to Amari. And then you have the other aspect, the skill level. I don't – what's he ranked now? Is he ranked like 2 or 3?
He's 2 or 1 or 2. Yeah, he went from unranked to number 2, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember what the latest is. I'm going to look right now as we're talking.
I think Rivals had him too, but I'd have to – where is it? I have to pull that.
What class is this, 2024?
4, yeah. But yeah, he went from unranked to I think
3.
Number 2.
He's 3 in the consensus, I think. Trey Johnson, Texas guard, Dylan Harper, who's Ron Harper's son, combo guard is 2, and that's fine. Like to me, it's a guards game, right? We can admit it's a guards game, and without guards, you're not winning anything. So I'm fine with that. But I'll tell you what. There's no big I'd rather have than Flory. If they can get Flory, I'm not saying it would be a game changer because you need guards, but it would certainly help.
Absolutely, and because we've seen that with Indiana and shooting, and which is obviously a very high priority for Mike Woodson and crew now, as they're loaded. They've completed their front court.
Yes,
it's the back court. You've got to. Everyone is planning on Xavier Johnson being back, and I don't think that that's no reason not to do that. I would be shocked.
Well, you just don't know with the NCAA. Again,
no, I know.
Like I get everybody's planning for it, but this is in the hands of an organization that has been incredibly inconsistent or consistent with some of their rulings, who knows what the hell they're going to do. So to me, they can be as confident as they want until you hear from the NCAA. Like we have no idea. What he played 9 minutes more than the allotment,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Indiana had a football player that Brian Fitzgerald, a very good football player, about 3 or 4 years ago. Right before the season, the administration was supposed to send in this piece of paperwork that didn't get sent in. He had to sit for a year because of that. And I'm like, that's
there's no common sense. There's just no common sense with them. You know, and I wonder now because, you know, they're trying to be more strict with these two-time transfers, the undergrad transfers, that they can't get a waiver now. So if you transfer twice and you haven't graduated yet, they're saying you're not going to get a waiver. So like a kid like Brandon Murray went LSU to Georgetown last year. Now he's going to Ole Miss. Well, NCAA is saying you're going to have to sit out. You're not being able to play right away. So if they're starting to do that and come down a little bit more on some of these rules, I just wonder if they're going to bend on X. I hope they do, so he has an option at least. Because I still don't know 100%. Even if X gets the appeal, the waiver, does he definitely come back? I don't think it's 100%. I still think he would love to go pro if he could. If somebody offered him a two-way contract, which again, they're not handing those out. They're not saying before the draft, hey, we're definitely giving you a two-way. There's still a lot of uncertainty with a kid like X putting his name in for the draft. But you know, to me, on one hand, I think he'd love to be done with college and move on to his pro career. He's been around for a long time. On the other hand, does he want to go out that way? Probably not.
Yeah,
Jeff, one of the things
to make that in.
Jeff, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was for the past couple of years now, the Big Ten has really struggled in the NCAA tournament. There's been a lot of things that we can kind of point to. Is it the increased number of conference games over the past couple of years? Is it a tough non-conference schedule? Do they just not have the elite athletes? When you look at style of play, the officiating has been under scrutiny. When you look at the Big Ten holistically and some of the struggles they've had the last 3 or 4 years in this tournament, is there one thing that you point to and say the Big Ten's got to improve in this area if they want a deeper March run and snap that 23-year streak since they've won a national title drought?
Yeah, I think it is being more athletic. You know, being more athletic. These plotting bigs work against each other, right? They work against each other, but they don't work so well when you're playing these smaller teams that can step out and expose them on the defensive end. I think the other thing is, you know, a guard, like the guards in the Big Ten are not nearly as athletic as they are around the country. You know, so I think when they get there, you know, a kid like even Jalen looks better in the Big Ten, right? He looks better. He's a higher level guard. And then when he, not to say he's
the most athletic guy.
Right. Not to say he gets exposed, but then he gets into the NCAA tournament and he's average athletically compared to a lot of these other guards, obviously in the SEC, the Big 12, some of these other leagues. And again, Jalen's more athletic than a lot of these, you know, Wisconsin, Iowa, some of these other schools, they're guards. So I think overall it's two things. Well, it's one thing. It's athleticism. It's athleticism as much as anything else. It's still a bruising league. And that, like, I worry not in the athleticism part as much with Woodson now in Indiana up front. So I think Renew and Ware are athletic. I just worry about the shooting. I worry about the fact that you're again, and Peyton Sparks, who's going to come off the bench. Peyton Sparks is going to be a good third big coming off the bench. But you still don't know if any of those guys are capable of stretching it and stepping out. Sparks isn't, and he'll be a 15-minute a game guy. But the other two, one of them better be able to stretch it. If they can't, you're going to deal with the same stuff you dealt with last year with Trace and Race. And they're great together in the Big Ten. But then when you go to the NCAA tournament and you don't have that spacing and you don't have guys that can shoot the hell out of the ball from the perimeter, you're in trouble.
Yeah, the remaining pieces Indiana has to fill with 3 open spots. 2 of them have to be shooting wings, whether it's Chris Ledlam from Harvard or Necht or a guy like that. They have to have guys that can not just shoot, that can shoot, create their own shot, and help rebound. Because Indiana didn't get a lot of help rebounding from the wing last year. They definitely didn't get shooting, but we've had Miller Kopp. I've seen him on.
Ledlam's not a shooter, Jim. I've seen him here at Harvard. I'm in Boston.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Right. So he's not a shooter. The kid from VCU is not really a big time shooter. Like,
nope.
they got to get some shooters in. Otherwise, it's going to be the same problem that we've watched for. I mean, you guys have watched longer than I have, obviously, but I've certainly watched for a while here closely. Again, not a lot of shooting. And I think, you can get to the tournament, but now you've been there 2 years in a row. Now you want to advance in the tournament. You want to get to the second weekend. And it's hard to do that. San Diego State did it this year without shooting, but they were old. They were super old. And they were elite defensively. Elite. So you can get there, but I think this was kind of a one-off for San Diego State, to be honest.
I agree. They get by Florida Atlantic on that last second shot as well. How about Florida Atlantic and the job Dusty May did, and he's got everybody back.
Yeah, can we lock him in when Woodson is retired?
Hey, that is going to be one of the biggest between Dusty and Michael Lewis at Ball State. It's like, ooh.
I love Louis. I love Louis, but he doesn't have a Final Four in his resume right now, so I'm not sure he's winning that battle.
There is so much I wanted to get to. One of the things was Duke, because your latest piece fixed right into. I was going to ask Duke without Mike Krzyzewski. We saw what happened to Indiana when they didn't make the right hire, and if you think of Indiana, I'm going to have to go back and look, and I want to see what Indiana's records are under Knight and Branch McCracken, and then total outside of that. Because it's the right coach, and Kay was there for however long, 35 years or whatever. Man, that's a culture, that's a run, but it does not always just follow automatically. And but you've got them listed as your preseason number 1.
Yeah, they bring back guys. I mean, again, Filipowski and Tyrese Proctor, Mark Mitchell are all back. Jeremy Roach probably will come back, a veteran. So they'll have experience back for a team that's super talented. They had a great class. They got a kid, TJ Power. I can't remember if Indiana recruited him or not. I think they did at one point.
Yes.
He's awesome. I mean, and he's older, and he's the multi-dimensional forward that everybody loves right now. So yeah, I think Duke is number 1 for me. And going back to what you said about the coach, I just think the times have changed. So I think youth with a guy like Shire is far more advantageous right now. And he played, he knew the program, so it was easy. He coached under K. He's got NIL, but he's young. He can connect with these kids. He can connect in a way that, honestly, a lot of the older coaches can't anymore. They're fighting NIL, the older guys. Publicly, they're saying the right things, but privately, they hate it. John Shire is like, you know what? I just played however many years ago. I know I got to deal with this for 20 or 30 years. I'm not fighting this thing. I'm gonna buy into it right away. And that's where I think a guy like 35-year-old, I think he's 35, John Shire, has a major advantage than a Mike Woodson who came over and is very reliant on his staff because he had never been in college. So, to me, when I was critical of the hire of Mike Woodson, I was critical not because of Mike Woodson, the person. Like I've had dealings with him before. I mean, he's an incredible guy, and everything you hear about is he's a great guy. It was the data that I produced looking back at all these former NBA players and coaches that have not had success in college basketball because, frankly, they're not grinding on the whole. Some are. They're not grinding the same way these college basketball guys are. These guys that grew up and know they have to be on the phone all night calling recruits.
Musselman, all those kinds of guys.
Yeah, and Muss is the one actually outlier in a way because he came from the NBA, if you remember. He was a coach at the NBA for a while. So he might be the one outlier of an NBA guy who's come to college and absolutely crushed it. But because his work ethic is insane. Like he's not going to stop. But, you know, the Juwan Howard, look at Juwan Howard now. We were ready to put him in the Hall of Fame 2 years ago. Now, shoot, if he doesn't get back to the tournament next year, they'll be calling for his job.
Yeah, that is funny how that goes.
I know we're gonna let Jeff go shortly, but I just got to commend you. This is probably going to piss off people that are listening. I loved the search for Robbie Hummel's statue on Purdue's campus. I thought it was great that you got Payne involved and some of those other players, Chris Kramer. That was a really fun. I love stuff like that. I thought that was awesome.
Well, we have to pull that up. I missed that, and so we'll have to pull that up. Hummel's he's a great guy. He is the absolute only Purdue announcer that I can see Indiana fans ever liking. No one ever says anything bad about Hummel. When he's on the show, I talk about him like going, okay, it's amazing. I said, but the IU fans love you.
It's hard to like it. Right, it's hard to like a Purdue guy if you're an Indiana guy.
That's my point, and it's like it's hard to not like Robbie Hummel.
Yes, I told him he's got the gift that I never had. He's got the gift to be able to tell the truth and not piss people off. I've never figured that out.
Me either, brother. I promise you that. Randy, did you know Randy Johnson's daughter was in school here until she's gone now, but
no,
she was last year. Yes,
was she 6'10" also?
She was about 6'4". I'm gonna
really.
Wow. Yeah. She was working at one of the local bars. Of course, it's where I saw her. I was like, "That's crazy," and I mentioned that because Jeff's daughter Talia is in school at IU, following in his footsteps, doing great stuff with the Hoosier Network, the network run by the students, and man, she just was able to jump right in and get at it. And I know you have to be so happy and proud about that because my daughter is going to be a CPA, but she went to Ole Miss so she can get as far away as she can get.
Yeah, it's been a blast, and I've been out there a bunch, and brought her to Houston for the Final Four. We went to she was at the Big Ten tournament, covering the women's team, which I think she cried when they lost. I wasn't with her, but I think she literally cried when they lost because that team was just so much fun. I became a women's college hoops fan because of that team. Like, die hard now. Like, I love Mackenzie Holmes. Love her. Like I can't wait to watch how Yarden makes a jump from freshman to sophomore next year. We're obviously going to miss
Grace Berger.
Yeah, and she got drafted, 7 to Indiana?
Yeah, very cool story there.
So, yeah, it's been great having Talia at Indiana. She loves it there. The campus. Usually when I go to a place, I go for dinner with the coaches. I'll go for practice. I'll go for a game. But I'll never walk around campus. So when Talia started going on all these visits for school, and they're all Big Ten schools, pretty much. Maryland, Ohio State, Michigan State, Indiana. I just fell in love with Indiana. And I fell in love with the campus. And I fell in love with the guy who runs the sports media program, Galen Claudio, who is as elite can get. So I'm like the best salesman, I think, for the program. But it's true. Like we went to Syracuse. We've been to all these other places. And I'll put up Galen and what he has and what Indiana can do for a journalism media student up there against any program in the country. It's that good.
Well, I'm sure they appreciate hearing that, as do the rest of us IU grads. Where did you go? Syracuse?
Arizona. Listen.
Arizona.
I went for whatever order you want to put it in. Sports,
Sunshine.
weather, girls. Yeah, sports, weather, girls. So
yeah,
it wasn't the smartest move, but I did it.
Well, no, yours was better than mine because you could just take that same for me and just pull weather out of it. There was.
Yeah.
There's no good weather in January in Bloomington. Jeff Goodman, I know I don't have to tell people to follow him at Goodman Hoops. from the Field of 68 podcast, also Insider with Stadium. Am I missing anything?
That's it.
Jeff, we cannot tell you how much we appreciate you taking the time to join us here, man. And hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you again later on in the summer, see how things are shaking out.
You got it. This was much more fun than the dentist appointment I'm headed to right now.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Have a great day. Jeff Goodman joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We got lots more coming up. Rick Bozich joins us after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the
No, Bozich is in the segment after this. I told him to wait a few minutes since you went over because I know you would have missed another break if you.
That's okay. He still joins us after this, just not immediately after. Someone else in between. Andy says that Deloche was another big. He's not a wing. No, I understand that. He's 6'9". Yes, Deloche's coach is at PSU, as I stated. Former Mike Rhodes from VCU. Where was somebody else said something that once Ware committed, Deloche was not coming. Not true. Not true at all. Beer City, USA, lots of choices. Oh. There was when I was in I haven't worn the shirt yet, but when I was in Albany for the NCAA tournament, just one of the 2 nights I got to go out to get just something to eat. There was this place, and you'd have to look it up to see the outside of the picture of the outside. It's very cool. I think it is the old City Hall there in Albany. Very cool looking building, but it's called the City Beer Hall now in Albany. Dustin seems so enthralled. We're beer for you, Albany.
Wait,
You're muted,
sorry,
Dustin.
my mic was muted.
There you go.
Yep, sorry, my mic was muted. I like that.
Yeah.
Big fan. Big fan.
Here we go, guys.
Southern Stone Restaurant on Patterson and Rogers. It's one of the most popular gathering spots in Bloomington. Whether you're out on a date with your spouse, friends, or coworkers, Feast Market and Cellar offers an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. It is April 12th. Beautiful outside. I hope it is the same where you are. We've got listeners all over the place. Our friends on radio up in the region, our region rats in Chicagoland, listening on WJLB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. Our river rats down in Evansville on 97.7 ESPN, always the right call. WREF, the ref, the BBRO as well. And if we're not on radio where you live, in Indiana at least, you should reach out to them and tell them that they should.
That's right.
Philip pointing out that Haley Van Lith from Louisville, top women's transfer list. Yeah, I'm thinking, isn't she from out west?
Yeah, she's from Washington. She's likely heading out that direction. Whenever she went into the transfer portal, she put herself, I don't know what it's specifically called, but like a
Do
no
not
contact
contact.
list. Yeah, do not
Yeah.
contact list. She knows where she's going. It's probably back
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. So there's that. That's just like with Indiana and Sydney Parrish, who was Mr. Basketball, but ended up out at Oregon. Great conversation with Jeff. Daggone, I could have gone on and on and on and on. I wanted to talk about the Big Ten a little bit, but we got pretty much most of it in. I didn't get to ask about Duke without Coach K and without Nike's money because they've been equalized. That's the thing. And I don't care what people want to acknowledge it or not. And I'm not saying it was like this the whole time, but Nike became a part of Duke's success.
Yep.
Zion Williams is a perfect example of that. You know, all the stuff that came out about that. There were other teams. I'm not even going to start listing them, going into all that crap. So now are those, and they should, because Indiana is a team like that in the fact that they have resources. You know, Kentucky has got deep resources. Indiana has deep resources. Kansas, deep resources from a basketball standpoint, tradition, history, facilities, fan base. And they're not the only ones, but it's deeper than most. So they should be able to benefit more than anybody. It should not take Indiana long. And as a matter of fact, guards should have probably been the first thing that they knocked out, which I know you can't dictate how everything goes, but you know, Houston picked up two guards like this. Bam. Two of the best guards and two of the best ones too. A great shooting guard and another scoring point guard. And I'm like, well, there you go. You want to stay? Houston's trying to stay on top. Went out and got two great guards because what is it you need? Guards.
Well, but
score and wings.
So to that point, I think it's, I don't know how to say it, because Houston went out and some of these teams can get guards early. They can get the player exactly they want. The problem is they are in a much higher demand than bigs. So they can take their time a little bit more, especially if you're an elite level guard. Like Ryan Nembhard would get a ton of offers. There's going to be a ton of interest in him transferring. So he's not going to pick a school immediately. It's just like a quarterback for a team in college football. They're going to see the market, see where they can get NIL money, where they're going to get a starting job, that sort of thing. If there's a high level market, and that just tends to be the case with guards as opposed to big men. So it doesn't necessarily surprise me. And again, we've talked about this before the season started. Indiana is in a pot. I know we got to take a break, so I'm just going to make this point really quick. Indiana is heading in a right direction, in a good direction. People like to play for Mike Woodson, players like that. But, Jim, the winning still isn't where it needs to be to attract that level of talent, in my opinion.
Yeah, but you could say that about a lot of other teams who didn't win, like Kansas State, who had 10 new faces come in, or Miami, et cetera, et cetera. We got to take a quick break. We got to get off track. We went long with Jeff, but we got to get back on track because Rick Bozich joins us next, the great one. Back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar here in Bloomington. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether it's
let's see. Yeah, but you don't have to be in the lottery. You're still in the first round. If you're not in the lottery, you just don't make as much money.
What is Dustin talking about?
Who's better than Edie at what?
That's a good question.
Edie's not. I don't either. Edie's not a great basketball player. Let's be honest. Edie is just a
my God.
Human being. He's not.
This is the worst argument in the history of the world.
Okay.
Okay.
Is he going?
Okay. No. Time out. Here's my argument. Okay. So I would agree. If Zach Edey was 6'7", we're not talking about him. If Trace Jackson Davis was,
if he was 6'9", if he was 6'9", the same exact size as Trace Jackson Davis.
If Trace Jackson Davis was 6'2", he wouldn't be playing college basketball.
That's
the same argument. It's the same argument.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Cool. It's 100% the same argument.
Welcome to
I don't understand.
Rick.
Not true.
He can't shoot. So what's his skill? He can't rebound. He can't block shots if he's 6'2". So what's he going to do?
I'm just saying, he doesn't have to be. I'm just saying, if you had Zach Edey at 6'9" and Trace Jackson Davis at 6'9",
but that's
playing
not the
each
comparison.
other, it is the comparison. I'm comparing Zach Edey at 6'9" instead of 7'4".
You're also just saying what if too. Like that's not what he is, and he'll never be that. He's
everything is what if.
Center.
Of course, it's what if. But it's the point that I'm trying to make is that is the difference that it makes. He's not athletically. He's not athletic. He's just ginormous, but he has touch. He can shoot 70. You shoot 70% from the free throw line. You've got touch, and he has that as well. But he's not like he's standing out there knocking down 3-pointers or he's moving with the ball. Trace could. Well, he turned the ball over a lot, but he could bring it up the floor.
Here we go. Welcome to the show, Rick.
Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday, and you know what that means? It's Hall of Fame Day because the Hall of Famer's with us. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. How are you, sir?
I'm good, guys. I kind of tuned into the last bit of your little
we started at that started
boxing
in the
match?
break. I was trying to explain that if Zach Edey was 6'9" instead of 7'4", and you don't have to change the size of Trace Jackson Davis for this analogy, Dustin, because that's not what it is. It's at that height, and that's the difference. His difference is not being 6'9", it's being 7'4". It's not about being 6'2". It's the difference between that, because that is a size that hardly a few humans on planet Earth are. So if he's 6'9", he is not even he's an average player.
Nobody. I'm not disagreeing with that, but that's part of it.
Okay, good.
Like Shaq was 7 foot, 300 pounds, and he dominated the game. If he wasn't 7 foot, he wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Like
he was a dominant player, but he wasn't a great basketball player.
My point is that if you're going to shave 7 inches off of Zach Edey's height, and you want to do that, I'm going to do that with Trace Jackson Davis. He can't shoot. He didn't expand his game. If he's 6'2", 6'3", he's not playing college basketball anywhere important because he can't do anything.
But I didn't say he could play as a guard. You're missing the point. But regardless of that, welcome aboard Rick Bozich as the ever-changing world as the world turns with college basketball and the portal, of course, Louisville, Indiana. Earlier, we were talking about with Jeff Goodman joined us, and he's got Duke listed as his preseason favorite next year because they've got everybody back. And I'm thinking, yeah, I could think of a couple of teams, North Carolina and Kentucky, who thought they had that too. And boy, did things go south for two teams that had great talent. There's no doubt about that. But it went awry. And that's with a group that had familiarity with each other. And we've got other teams, or most of these teams, that are bringing in transfers and having to get together. So it's kind of odd to see college basketball right now, how it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous to try and forecast who's going to be good and not be good next year at this time. You look back last year in November when the AP preseason top 25 came out, the only team in the Final Four that was in the top 25 was San Diego State, and I think they were 19th. UConn was like 27th. FAU obviously wasn't ranked.
They weren't predicted to be in the Final Four?
No. So, yeah, I mean, let's wait and see who all the players are that transfer and where they go. And then you never know how it's going to mesh. And what we learned, I think, this year is that some of the players who became impact players in college basketball weren't the most highly regarded transfer pickups. You can get a guy that the talent evaluators might not be gaga over because they don't, jump high, they don't run fast, they weren't McDonald's All-Americans or whatever.
Didn't pass the Wonderlic test.
But they're good team players. They go to a school and fit in and do their role, what they're asked to do. All these guys who transfer, the ones who are doing it for the money or to get more shots, that's one thing. But there's a lot of guys who are doing it because they want to go somewhere and win. And I'll tell you a good example. Like yesterday, probably the most under-reported, under-heralded pick in the transfer portal. There's a guard by the name of Walter Clayton, who was a starting guard for Pitino this year at Iona, and he picked Florida. And I guarantee you that kid's going to be an impact player next year at Florida. And nobody's talking about it. We're all focused on everybody else.
Anybody under the tutelage of someone like that, anybody under the tutelage of someone like Pitino, especially a guard,
right?
I mean, you want to talk about producing talent. Everyone likes to talk about, and I don't have a dog in this fight. Everyone likes to talk about Calipari and all this talent he, quote unquote, produced, the one and dones. That's not producing talent. Pitino produced talent. Your boy on Memphis's team who's having a bunch of trouble now, but on
John Morant.
Yes. He was not even expected to either go that year or be a high pick that year, I think. And he just continues to put it out. But yeah, I love that. And that's the thing. It's Houston. I saw that first thing they do, pick up two good shooting guards, scoring guards. I'm like going, want to keep winning, and they do, and they get right back at it. So Indiana now, of course, they have to get some scorers, wings, guys who can shoot the ball. We keep talking about this. It's a broken record, but they've got to do it, and it has to happen. And I'm not saying it has to happen today or tomorrow. There could be conversations going on that we're not privy to, but guys like Necht and Ledlam and those guys, there was a commitment that Deloche, who is 6'9", he's a big, but his visit was canceled because I'm assuming this knee surgery was unexpected by Mike Woodson.
I don't know. Is that why the visit was canceled? Because Woody's not available?
Yeah. Because it was still on as of yesterday morning.
Okay. Come on. I guess it was unexpected. I don't know whether whether he, twisted it or fell or something. I hope not. But I haven't even seen whether it was a scope or was it actually like a ligament damage or what was it?
Man, you never know. Could knee replacement or who knows? But even with that, it doesn't take long back on their feet. So I'm sure that'll be rescheduled very quickly. He's off to Penn State this weekend, where Mike Rhodes now from VCU, and then his former teammate Ace Baldwin Jr., the reigning A-10 Player of the Year, is already committed to Penn State. which that's got to be an exciting thing for Penn State. They've got some Jews coming in. That's some excitement. It's hard to get excitement in Penn State basketball.
Right. I mean, that's a decent hire. They found a guy that really was a guy you could build with in Shrewsbury, and he leaves after 2 years, which isn't a good look for their program. Penn State's kind of program, if you're going to go in there and you win, you need to get out as fast as you can, because you can't sustain it. There's no great recruiting base. There's no great tradition. There's no great urgency from the fans to win. It's a football school. Really, the only thing you could sell is opportunity to play and being in the Big Ten. But Rhodes seemed to be a sort of a hard-nosed, gritty type dude, and we'll see what happens. I'm not sure about Deloach, but I agree with you. Indiana needs to get a two guard and a wing, or two small forwards, whatever two guys who are threats to score the ball either off the dribble or from the perimeter. They need two of them, in my opinion.
Absolutely, minimum.
Plus for CJ Gunn to develop, they need that.
And Caleb Banks, because I think he could be one of those guys. He's
Trey Galloway. I mean, yeah.
Trey Galloway is, to me, is just always going to be a solid player and someone who's going to surprise you sometimes, but I don't think that he is going to push it enough. I think that he's trying to play within his game so much that he doesn't take the chances by putting up enough 3-point shots. Just putting up 1 or 2 3-point shots a game, that didn't cut it for Indiana. You
Right.
need more. Now, we've seen Miller Kopp say that they don't run sets. I understand that, but the ball's in your hands plenty of times and you're behind the stripe. And if you're with him, he was 6'7". I'm like, dude, go up, shoot over top of somebody. But they've got to get these guys that want to score, but not like Tamar Bates, who kind of seemed like he started to play outside of the framework of the offense. But then I can understand maybe he was frustrated because of things like Miller Kopp said. This was a 2-man game. It was Jalen Hood-Schifino and Trey Jackson Davis. And, there was not much else invitation for offense, it seemed like.
Well, and to that point, I feel like, and Rick, I want your thoughts on this too. Moving on from the Trace Race era, I think while they were great players, they obviously had incredible impact on the team, and over that transition from the Archie Miller to Mike Woodson era, they can play now a different brand of basketball that is more up tempo, what Mike Woodson probably wants to play. Like, it's not good that you're losing 2 good players and 2 quality players, but at the same time, I feel like it's time to move on, and they have the potential to be more explosive if they do get those guys that you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a chance for a reset of going away from the post emphasis that Indiana really has had going back to Juwan Morgan. I mean, that's the way they've played for a number of years, and to have a little bit more of an open offensive approach, get back to more guys on the perimeter, comfortable of taking and making threes, and playing a little bit faster. To me, the most alarming stat from Indiana's season last year was they were like, 358th in the country or 357th in percentage of
shot attempts
taken from 3 points. I mean, that is going against the grain in a heavy way. And if you're going to do that, you better be like first or second in the country in efficiency in shooting 2-point shots, because when you're getting in games where you're only taking 7 or 8 threes and the other team's taking 20 to 25. Mathematically, you're putting yourself in a tough situation.
Yeah, and so now Indiana continues to move forward as this portal process. It's not something that has an expiration date per se of getting this done, but it needs to get done as soon as possible for a couple of reasons. A, to get it done with. B, to plan to get these guys together as soon as possible to start playing together. And you've got other stuff that's got to get worked out, NIL stuff, transcripts coming in from all over different places, and it's getting everyone on the same page. And then Woody's going to have to figure out what he has so he can figure out what kind of offense he's going to run next year.
Yeah. I mean, it's so hard to get a handle on this. And I'll give you an example that yesterday I talked to a couple of coaches, and I can't share them here, but they gave me the names of 2 starting guards in Power 5 programs who aren't in the portal, but who had made it known
that they're going
to school that they wanted to talk and see what the opportunities were elsewhere. So
is that kind of like the exact opposite of Haley Van Lith?
That's just 2. I'm sure there are many more than that of guys who have a good situation where they're at, and they don't want to cause a stir at their school by putting their name in the portal yet.
And that is the smartest thing to do.
What else is out there. And so anybody could be in play. So, I don't think our imagination is powerful enough to figure out who else might be out there. So it's so early in the process that right now we're focused in on all these names like Connect and Ludlam and Deloach and the kid that isn't coming to Indiana anymore, Caden Shedrick, I guess it was, of Virginia, and on. But there's other guys out there who aren't even on these hot board lists who are possibilities.
But yeah, because you see guys that we didn't expect to be in there. Hunter Dickinson's one. Was it Crease from Arizona? That was
right. He's going to West Virginia, which I thought was a weird
yes.
choice. Yeah.
I mean, across the freaking country.
Right.
I didn't. Maybe he's from over there. I don't know. But
I mean, Florida's picked up like 3 guys already. Nobody really talks about them, but they've quietly had a good run in the portal already.
Yeah, I guarantee Cabro's talking about him.
Hey, Cabro posted real quick. Cabro posted a picture or a video of himself doing karaoke the other day.
Oh boy,
got some pipes.
Man,
he's got some pipes, man.
We've
seen enough.
That goes back 20 years ago in the SEC. I remember he was a big karaoke guy.
Oh wow, funny. Yeah, he's funny.
No, he can stop believing, baby.
Absolutely. The Big Ten, we won't know until next freaking January who's actually going to be decent, probably. But there are some teams. Purdue, very little change. They did lose. You lose a guy, they pick up.
They lost Brandon Newman.
And
where's he going? I heard Notre Dame, probably. Maybe played it for Shrewsbury. That's the rumor I heard.
I don't know if it's been official, but that's one of the teams out there.
Who'd they get? They got somebody.
They got somebody, but he's shoots like 28% from 3 as a guard. I'm like, going, okay, what's he going to do for you? But they also lost a kid that went to Illinois. Daggone it, I'm drawing a mind blank on it.
A player off the roster?
Yeah. Oh, gosh, dang it. Someone had mentioned that earlier, but I'll have to find that. Daggone it.
I mean, I think it's safe to say Michigan State's going to be the favorite with Malik Hall and Tyson Walker both announcing they're coming back. They got the best recruiting class in the Big Ten by far. And Izzo's the coach. I'll be shocked if anybody other than Michigan State's the preseason favorite in the Big Ten.
Trey Gibbs Lawhorn.
Oh, really?
Trey Gibbs Lawhorn, it says.
Well, that's a recruit, right? He didn't play last year at Purdue.
Oh, is he still a freshman or was a freshman?
I think he was still in high school. Isn't he a high school player that's going to? He wasn't at Purdue this year. I don't think, was he?
He decommitted last year,
right?
And from Purdue and committed to Illinois.
Okay,
back there you go.
He's the kid from Rob Tennessee's high school, I think. Pretty sure it is McCutcheon. Yeah, he was highly ranked. He went to a prep school. He's bounced around quite a bit. He's seen the USA.
How much faith is Indiana?
How much faith is remember that commercial? See the USA in your Chevrolet.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
You are too.
I'm not. I was thinking about
Google. See the USA in your Chevrolet.
I was thinking about see the world. What was the Army commercial? Army, Air Force, you made Marines. What a great.
What you guys have to help me out here. Yesterday seemed weird with Twitter among Indiana people like there was something going on beyond.
Yes.
What is that all about? Is that about the catching skid at Brownsburg?
So there's been multiple things that seem to have been sparked. Some there seems to be some animosity between those who are not overly excited about the Khalil Ware addition.
Okay.
That was one. Another one was there seems to be the Catchings kid who committed to Purdue just, I think, a few weeks ago. There's rumors that he might decommit and Indiana could be in play. I have no idea on that, but those seem to be the two things that IU Twitter was talking about yesterday. And I don't know, people can fight over whatever.
And there's an internal debate among Indiana fans about whether Khalil Ware is worth getting excited over or he's not, or this is fans
there's
schools who are
always a debate about everything amongst IU fans. Trust me.
And he's no sure thing, but I mean,
right?
He's got a skill.
Who is?
Yeah, he's got some issues you have to address, but I mean, I'm sure that Indiana's aware of them going in, and I think he's worth rolling the dice on. He seems like a guy would be a good fit with Renew because Renew is more of a inside guy, and this guy seems like he's interested in maybe showing some more skills outside on the perimeter and being a big guy who can pick and pop, or a big guy who could shoot threes.
And he's put him up at least, and
I'm not saying,
I believe.
I'm not saying this is the case for him specifically. But there does seem to be, I think this is where a lot of the arguments start, is there anytime a team gets a player out of the transfer portal, doesn't matter what it is, there's always this, I feel like, unrealistic expectation that player is then all of a sudden an All-American, an All-Conference player. Could be, the difference between a seventh place finish in the Big Ten and winning the conference and making the Final Four. So I think a little bit of that plays into some of this where fans just get hyped up, think that he's the missing link, and then there's other people who are like a little bit more realistic, like pump the brakes. He averaged 6 and 4 last year. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the transfer guys that Indiana's gotten through the years. I mean, a lot of them have kind of underachieved. Probably one of the more successful ones was one of the less acclaimed one, Nick Zeisloff. He had a good career there, but nobody was really that excited when he came in. We can think of Evan Fitzner and Josh Newkirk and several other guys who came in and were supposed to be higher level contributors and were not. So, it all depends on what the work ethic of the guy is. And this is really Mike Woodson's first big. Miller Kopp was a nice get, but this kid in Miller Kopp was no 5-star. So this is Mike Woodson's first big get out of the portal, and let's see what he does with him. And hi there, Ike.
Yeah, I know you're Serbian, but did you know your name means Christmas?
Yes, Serbian Eastern Orthodox Christmas Easter is this weekend. So,
so you get all the stuff again.
Yeah, I get the half price chocolate.
Do you walk around like in the Dumb and Dumber scene and say Christmas, Rick Christmas?
I do not. And then Kevin Brockway's on with us. Said
he's jumping.
I disagree with that, Kevin. He was much better with his right hand this year. He's much better defensively this year. He's a much better passer this year. He did not expand his shooting range, but he expanded his game.
Why? And I have to ask that question. Why on God's green earth? Why over 4 years how can that not happen? I mean, he may be the first player I've ever heard of that for 4 years heard that this is something that person needs to work on and just see zip from it as far as shooting. And I'm not talking about 3-pointers. I'm talking about 8, 10, 12 footers.
I don't know. Because, I mean, it wasn't like he was a 50% free throw shooter. He got himself up to close to 70 this year, didn't he? I'm pretty sure he did. I wish he would have taken some more shots. I thought there was a couple times his junior year where he took some and he missed them so badly that at that point he lost confidence in doing it and he didn't want to airball it or whatever, or especially on the road, hear the airball thing or whatever. But, let's hope that as he moves forward, that is that's a development he has to have to have a long NBA career. Yeah. I mean, Al Horford's the exception, not the rule. Kevin, nobody's comparing Trace Jackson Davis to Al Horford. Al Horford's, I mean, there haven't been that many players in the history of Florida basketball have a career like Al Horford. But the thing I'll say about Trace Jackson Davis, which we have said a few times but haven't said enough, is that he should be appreciated for what he did for Indiana basketball. He staying
first of all, yeah.
He never embarrassed the school or did anything to make the basketball program look bad. He was a phenomenal, I thought, in press conferences. He was interesting and engaging and pleasant to deal with. And he's a great ambassador for Indiana basketball. They had him in a lot of NIL stuff this year, and he's great in those commercials. I mean, I think he'll continue to sell Indiana. He expressed his appreciation for being able to play at IU. I mean, there's so many guys now that we see that come into college basketball where their career is so transactional. It's all about what can I get. And I never got that sense from Trace Jackson Davis. He got a lot, but he made sure that he gave back. And I don't think we should overlook that.
Yes, he definitely is a part of the culture that will be there for a long, long time.
And I wanted to mention that for Grace Berger. What a great moment that was.
Yeah.
To see her get picked 7th in the draft and get to play in Indiana.
That's the first round draft pick for Indiana's women's team ever, right?
Exactly right. And she will still be around the area, which tells me that she'll be at games next year because I imagine she'll still live in Bloomington or Indianapolis, and you'll see, it's great publicity for Terry Morin's program. The social media stuff that they posted from New York was phenomenal with Terry Morin screaming in the background. So, we have just finished watching 2 of the, iconic players at IU basketball, one in men's basketball and one in women's basketball. And that's one thing I worry about. That's the part of the Ware thing that I think it's going to be challenging, is that he's coming in to replace a guy that
the legend,
very highly acclaimed. People are going to, well, Trace would have done that, or Trace would have done this. And that's going to be unfair to him because first of all, he's not the same skill set as Trace Jackson Davis. And B, he's not from the state of Indiana. He's not going to have the same mindset about IU basketball. So I hope people don't do that to him.
Well, maybe they'll put that onus on Malik Renew instead, since he's been here for a year.
I mean, people give John Calipari a hard way to go because he says it all the time, but it's true at Indiana too. It's true at Carolina. It's true at a lot of the high-level programs. Is that part of the experience is not for everybody. When you play at a school like that, there's tremendous rewards, there's tremendous exposure, but there's also tremendous undercurrent of criticism when you don't deliver, and especially with social media these days. And I think guys have to be trained not to look at that stuff, not have tell their friends not to talk to them about it, because it's definitely out there. We know that it happens.
Make sure you go to WDRB.com. Rick's got pieces up every 2 seconds, it seems like, but there's one up there on Grace Berger, right? Well, there's tons. Grace Berger, Louisville had a 6'9" guy that he's going to North Carolina. You got Kenny Payne, what he's doing there, and now focusing on remaking their roster and all that goes on in there. Haley Van Lith. It'd be interesting to see where she ends up in the portal. Boy, that would have been a great addition for Indiana, but obviously I think she's headed back out west, right?
Yeah, I mean, most of the names I've heard are Stanford, Oregon, UCLA, a little bit of LSU because Kim Mulkey recruited her out of high school, but I'd be surprised if she doesn't go back to the West Coast.
All right, brother, what's up next for you?
I don't know. There's some baseball possibly tonight. Louisville playing Bellarmine, getting ready for the Derby. We're be 3 weeks out from the Derby this Saturday, so we've got to lock in on
crazy. That's crazy.
It's very crazy. I don't know, a couple of other things. There's always something, man. It's never a dull moment.
Walking Ruby's at the top of that list, I would imagine.
Yes, it is. Always got to walk Ruby.
White Sox under 500 right now at 5-7.
Yeah, they're not doing very well. A lot of injuries, bad pitching, not good situational hitting. We don't have time to go through it all.
Sounds like my life.
Oh, Rick Bozich, I cannot tell you how much we appreciate you.
All right. Have a great weekend, guys.
Thank you as well. The great one, Rick Bozich, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're catching from Purdue.
Yeah.
No. Haley
No,
is
what?
not going to come to IU. No.
Oh.
She's going out west. Kirk Krissa, yeah. Oh, really? He's from Estonia? Ah, that makes sense. Wait a minute. Didn't his dad play? Holy
Who?
crap. Yeah, wasn't there a... Yeah,
have no idea
I'm
what
interested. It's going to be interesting to see what Gabe Cupps is able to do. Been hearing about him for a while. It will be interesting to see how he's able to step up. Indiana has to have someone else that can put the ball in their hands, facilitate, shoot, and score. Because that's not Trey Galloway, as much as people don't want to hear that. I mean, Trey Galloway's a great kid and great teammate, hard worker. But he's not going to win you national championships.
That's true. You look like you're about to pose for the singing of the national anthem.
Because I took my hat off?
But it was over your heart. It was just...
No, that's the left side.
Oh, well,
The
I guess
heart's over here.
on my side it looks reversed on my side, I guess.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? The stench of Archie Miller, at least. Yep. Archie Miller's it's just...
All right, we'll have about 3 minutes here to wrap up. Here we go.
Just thank everybody.
Launched from a previous staple in Bloomington, the former Function Brewery, Metalworks Brewing Company is the culmination of a passion for beer, food, and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste what Dr. Hops is brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. It is Wednesday, April 12th. Dustin Schutte here with me. Just finished up with Rick Bozich. What an incredible day. Jeff Goodman on before that, and Bob Kravitz from The Athletic prior to him. Man, that's an all-star lineup.
That is.
Just keep knocking them out of the park. Just keep knocking them out of the park. Tell your friends and neighbors. Appreciate everybody listening on whether you're on radio at down on the river or River Rats, like I said. 97.7 ESPN, always the right call, the ref, or 12:30 a.m., 104.7 FM in Hammond, in Chicago, WJOB. Appreciate everybody up in the region.
Hey, by the way,
the region.
By the way, real quick,
are
are your Reds going to try to win a game in this series against the Braves, or just let us win by one run each time?
Well, see, last year they opened up the series season
won
with
2
a
or 3.
series win over the Braves.
and then the season went into the crapper.
They did.
So
you're trying to reverse
what I'm-
fortunes.
Reverse psychology.
There we go. Okay, I like it.
Psychology.
1 minute.
Hey, we're not done. We got more coming up the rest of the week. Let's see. Dustin's back tomorrow. Matt Taylor will be with us. Colin Hartman joining us tomorrow as well. May see about getting, I don't know if Tyler Harris can join us from Hoosiers for Good, but we'll see about that. Kristen area as well. We'll see what else we can get scared up. See what else has changed by the time the portal. Friday, looking at Alec Busey will be back on to wrap up the weekend recruiting. Zach Osserman, of course. And Rob Cassidy, I think, from Rivals. So, man, we just keep bringing it. Keep bringing it. Appreciate you guys more than you can imagine. Big thanks to everyone. Dustin, of course, Bob Kravitz, Jeff Goodman, Rick Bozich, John, the producer. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. And we appreciate it because we like being here. We're back tomorrow to do it all again for you. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. For Dustin and John, I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.